Hello and welcome to the third episode of Barbershop Talk. Barbershop Talk is a podcast where we go to different barbershops in Georgia and listen to black men talk. For the second and third episodes, we went to Legends Barbershop and Hair Studio in South Atlanta. To catch the first part of our conversation there, be sure to check our last episode linked below. We left off in the second episode talking about creating and keeping wealth in the black community.
I had a brother that had a landscaping business, and he was cutting about 2 or 3 yards in the neighborhood. And so I was using someone else. So I said, I'm going to use him. So when he came to me, he was significantly more expensive than the other guy that I was using. So what I did to the brother, so he can't say, Brother Blaylock, he don't patronize, any of us or whatever. So I took that brother in my kitchen and I sat him down and I pulled out his invoice and I pulled out the other guy's invoice. And so I said, okay, if you were me, what would you do? And he heaved hard and like, well, I got to come farther. I got to do, oh no, brother, that don't have nothing to do with me. So I had to educate him on if he's going to continue to do business. What I said to Stan is, a lot of times we try to get that instant gratification or instant riches, rather than you playing the long game. So you can't make all your money on 1 or 2 customers.
Sound business. Right?
I got to show you. Look, if you go with me, I may know 2, 3 other people.
Exactly.
And then it's worth your trip.
Yeah.
Rather than you trying to charge me $200-300 more than what this guy. I'm like, come on, that's not practical.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that we got to do. It ain't like I'm gonna turn my back and say, well, you just doing a whole. I expect great service just like I expect great service from everybody else. And if you don't give me great service, I'm going to sit you down and I'm say, okay, this is what I was dissatisfied with. And if you want to go, I'm not going to go back and forth, then I just won't patronize you no more. But I want to educate you on why I'm doing this. And if we take that critical criticism and receive it, then I think we'll be better. So that's just how I look at it.
I always dealt with a florist that looked like me, but I see even they are disappearing. And so the last florist I still deal with her now, but she did a beautiful, whatever she did, she did it and got it to the people too early. And so by the time the day of the event, it looked horrible. It had never looked like any of the other work she did. I had already paid her for it. And I told her, I said, listen, this looks, and I sent her pictures and everything, and I said, listen, something's going on. You've never had your work look bad like this. And she explained to me, she said, we took it too early, and the church was too hot, or the place the air was not working. So the fact that she took it too early and the environment it was in made it wilt and look bad. Now, what if I had taken the position that I'm not going to deal with her anymore, I'm going to go to somebody else? And so it is incumbent on us, especially, you said it, Brother Blaylock, we got to have a conversation. We can't be so quick. We're going to cut them off. Like you could have told them, listen, you too high, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. But you educated him. You said, listen, you don't know who I know. I may bring you 20 new referrals, and those people may bring you another 10 or 20. And so, but you don't have a sound business practice in that you are being competitive. No matter how good you are, at the end of the day, all of us want to spend less, not more. But the fact that you had a conversation gives me hope. Because many of us don't. We like, I ain't going there no more. Cut them off.
I think a lot of times it starts in the household, and like you were saying, you kind of reflect your environment. So if you got a fractured environment, you don't see like positive conflict resolution or solution-oriented activities. Like even when I was younger, and I'm from Philadelphia, moving to Atlanta and seeing, I feel like it's more community here. and seeing people, you know, I know like doctors and lawyers now, whereas before I didn't have identification on like this is a black doctor or this is, you know, a lot of times it would be like only one, you know, and now meeting one, now I know 7, you know, so it's like my children get to see, you know, a lawyer, a doctor, and these reflections of the same people, but also like having those reflections, I think you tend to be able to have a conversation. Like even here in the barbershop, nobody knows what people's titles are. So I could just be here every week and now we got a relationship because we talk. And it's not about work, it's just about life.
Right.
You know, and I think once people kind of realize the human value in that, they start to be able to have more conversations. And, you know, seeing him be able to talk to this guy, that guy may never even had that conversation before. So now he's just standoff like, oh, I don't want to hear what you got to say, but not knowing that he owns businesses and now I could put you on to a contract, really. So even in a space like this, if I was to own a cleaning company and he has a business and now we know each other, you know, money will circulate in places to stay in that area, you know, because of the relationship more than just something where it's just a business transaction. And I think a lot of times we've come to a space in society where things are just transactional. Even in our family, in our households, even if I was to break up with my wife, we should still be able to communicate and focus on our family, because regardless if I'm related to you or I just see you on the street every day and we have a rapport where we're speaking to each other, you know, now I can like say, oh, this Mr. Brown from up the street. So now his children, I might have a business where I want to give them, you know, a summer job or something like that, and that way the relationships will keep just life circulating in our communities.
You know what, you hit on something that I'm so glad you hit on it, because I want to make sure I let even not just you all know, but the individuals that may see this. I'm a Fulton County Commissioner, right? There are contracts every day at the county level that I know good and well people that look like me can get. And so we have to be more diligent as elected officials, but we have to get the community to know, okay, we have somebody that comes in and clean up. We have somebody that comes in and provides furniture. We have somebody that comes in and does catering. One of the biggest, I don't want to say arguments maybe, but maybe a misunderstanding I had with the people that I work with was I said, I want that person that has that restaurant around the corner from my house to do the catering for the event. Those big national chains that y'all keep putting money towards to cater to county events, they're gonna make the money regardless. But what about that entrepreneur around the corner that's giving money for the little leagues and that's, you know, taking care of the community? Why don't we reach out and make sure they have the contracts they need? And so, hey, Fulton County government, please, if you do anything, please reach out and get certified at the vendor. And I would also say do it at the state and do it at the municipal and federal level, because it's not that we do not have enough businesses. We don't have enough people that even know the process. They don't even know that they can even do the job and bid the contract. So you made a great point. Thank you for doing that, because it goes back to what you said, relationships and that communication, being from Philly and coming down here. You were saying one doctor as opposed to how many you've met? Exactly. So when I think about when I go and I legislate with other legislators in the county building, everything in there needs to be done. You know, everything from the air conditioning to the janitorial to just the paper for the copying machines. I know it's somebody that looks like me that sells that, you know. And so we have to be more diligent as elected officials to make sure that people that look like us are engaged.
Because there's a lot of black businesses that are not educated on how to get through these processes. And we seen that during COVID. Like COVID was a big eye-opener for like black businesses. You need to wake up and know how to file your paperwork, do it the correct way, and do it now. Because if you don't know how to do it, when big situations happen, you don't have access to the funds that you should have access to because of the fact that, and now you have to get a president who can go in and say, well, let's focus on just black businesses on this amount of money because we don't have people who are educated. We have to share the wealth, and I think that you guys have been hitting on it all day. Like barbershop, the barbershop has been a place where we are able to share that kind of wealth and share that information. But one of the things that's critical too is that when we talk about it, we got to talk about too taking the people that we have now and letting people know who we have in front of them right now. Like we have Reverend Durley still alive, and if you ask the common man who is Reverend Durley, they'll be like, who is that, right?
Exactly.
I make it a pride and joy of my life to go spend at least an hour a day with him or an hour a week if I can, because of the fact the man he's 85 years old, has so much wisdom. He understands what it was like to stand through on the Freedom Riders movement. He understands what it's like to sit on stage with presidents and talk to world leaders. I mean, you don't get those opportunities. Zanona Claytons, we still have those.
We don't invest in that.
We still have those gems still alive.
Exactly.
And we have to be able to replicate those and actually be able to put them on podiums when we have opportunities to.
I'm gonna give you a little pushback, brother. I agree with you, but then I don't agree with you. As far as for signing up, a lot of minority business, it's plenty of RFPs, RFQs, P3 public-private partnerships that come out all day, every day. It's a matter of us applying ourselves and doing some of those contracts and putting forth the work. It's some set-asides too, but I understand a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it. A lot of times, I don't want to bid on a bunch of stuff. If they got a whole bunch of people, and I know a few people at the top are gonna get those contracts, I ain't gonna even waste my time on it. I'm gonna go to commissioner over here, and I ain't gonna do anything illegal. I'm gonna say, hey, look, I'm not bidding on any stuff in your district. I'm like, but I think that my company represents a whole lot. Now I'm gonna share something with you I know you don't know. I'm gonna share something with all these people in here. My mentor was a guy named Dr. Isaac Willis. He started Heritage, a commercial bank, and a couple other banks here in the 70s. He founded and backed Martin Luther King with Harry Belafonte. Back in the day, without his face being out here, right? This guy, when I couldn't play football anymore, he said, hey, I like you. You're not flashy. He's like, I'm gonna show you how you can make some money. I said, yes, sir. I watched this guy. This guy took me in boardrooms, and I just took notes. This guy took several companies public, and the reason I'm telling y'all this so y'all can Google it. He started a company that's all the video streaming that you guys have now. A black man invented that, and I'm gonna help you to it. Started a company called Interview. Our symbol on the NASDAQ was ITVU. Our only competitor was a company called Real Network. Their symbol was RNWK. He had over 200 patents. The 200 patents he had, Real Networks was basically paying his company. He sold, I think it was around 96, sold to Akamai Technologies. Their symbol was AKAM. He sold it to them for $2.8 billion. Akamai Technologies is one of the biggest streaming companies right now. So all this streaming that goes on now, Netflix and all that, started from this guy. And nobody knows him. And you know what I asked him? I said, Doc, why aren't you in Black Enterprise? Why aren't you in Fortune magazine? Why don't you have your face out there? You know what he told me? He said, never put your face out there. He said, always stay up under the radar. His face was never on nothing. He had other CEOs that don't look like us that was out front. That's the era he was raised in. So I wonder to this day, how would he be if he was still alive in the social media area? So as much as I can, I always tell people about him because he stayed behind the scenes. And his face was never out there. He had over 2 million shares of stock in Interview when he sold it for that $2.8 billion. And his face ain't on nothing. If you pull back the old stuff on him, his face ain't on nothing. We had all the CEOs and all the stuff on the front, so everything. So I tell you the good stuff and I tell you the bad stuff. And he started streaming. So when I look at all the streaming there and all these companies that have multi-billions, I think about him. So when you mention, you know, going to some of our matriarchs and our elders, that's some of the people that I think about and stuff like that as well. So I appreciate you sharing it. I wanted to share that. So when this goes out, people Google all that and they'll pull that up because I always wanted that to be out as well.
You know, my parents, and I can even say I can relate because I've had businesses. And I was raised back then that if you're African American, you hide that you own the business. And the reason I was raised with that, my father had a construction company here. And I mean, started way long time ago when a black man could not even bid for a contract. He would go, true story, he would go get a Caucasian off of Skid Row, clean him up, put a Salvation Army suit on him, spent about a good half a day showing him, now, I'm gonna show you this, and I want you to go in here and you bid. And he bid it, and he would, I mean, these was contracts for City of Atlanta and Fulton County. This was, I was a little girl. And some of that still permeates my mind because I've had conversations with friends of mine who have businesses, and they say, Khadijah, I would never let anybody know I have the business. And I said, why? You should be proud. They said, no, because the only color I care about is green. And I don't want anybody to look at my business and say, oh, that's a black-owned business, I'm not going to support it. That's a sad commentary, but it's believable, and it is going on because somewhere with the playing field, it's not equal to the point that whether you're African American, Hispanic, or whatever, you should be able to show that you got this business and mentor and all that. But some of us still have businesses and do not want to be out there for that particular reason. So that's true. I come from that era. And truth be told, sometimes I still see it. I see it. It's very subliminal, but I see certain individuals getting certain contracts, and I know that stuff is not better, nor do they have more educated people, nor do they have a much better product. They don't, but they get the contract. So it is real.
I had a property that I was getting appraised, and I know not to be around when they walk around doing the appraisal. And you take your pictures down, you take all of that down. And I messed around messed around and met the dude. And the appraisal was crazy. And then I fought it, and I said, no, we're gonna get another appraisal. It happened to be a brother came by and did the appraisal. And I was gonna hide, I sad to say I was gonna hide, and they did the appraisal before I sold the property, and it's what it was supposed to be. But those, I don't want to seem like I'm always beating a dead horse with racial, but it's true.
But it's true.
But that's
I had one came to my house to do an appraisal. I had the black, he told me he was coming at one time, but he actually came about an hour earlier. And I'm coming out the house to check the mail, and I had my Black Voters Matter shirt on. And he looked at me like, okay. So I got another appraisal after his, and it's like $60,000 more than what he gave.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing, the same underlying thing is education. Because there's so much money out here and grants and other stuff that we just not getting. The community isn't getting.
Next, we talked about the meaning of success. We have certain artists out here that would tell us in a song that I just want to be successful. I just want the money in the cars and the clothes. I suppose I just want to be successful, right? If you take those lyrics and if a person identifies that the only way I'm going to be successful is if I have money, cars, and clothes, and if I ain't got none of that, I'm not successful, then we don't just kill the whole generation by itself, right? What is successful is simply that I can go home, and if my mom needs me to come out to Fort Lauderdale, I don't need to ask somebody permission to go to Fort Lauderdale. I can get up and go to Fort Lauderdale. That makes me successful because I can be able to take care of my mama. You know what I'm saying? We got to change the dynamic of what people think success is, because if we don't do that, We won't have surveyors. We won't have assessors. We won't have people who want to be Secret Service workers. We won't have people who want to be police officers. You lose all that. You lose the whole generation of that. And if we lose a community, and once the community starts looking like the people who they represent, we're in a dangerous spot. And that's why we have so much problems we have with police officers now, because they don't look like the community.
Twice, but back when we was younger, they walked their beats and they got the chance to know their neighbors, in the community, but they don't. And I'm gonna give y'all a story about what Charles Barkley did an interview with Dr. J, about Dr. J years ago. And so he was sitting around the locker room and he was talking. He said, "How many cars you own?" He said, 6. He said, "Why you need 6 cars?" He said, "I just like to have 6 cars." He said, "You only drive one at a time." So he got rid of the other 4 cars and kept 2, just to have an option. But see, people go out and buy these big homes, live in these gated communities, and you can take that same amount of money, go out to a rural area, and live like a king. But they don't know that. They going by what folks tell them. You're a millionaire. You need to live in this particular neighborhood. No, you don't.
I think it goes back to what Pastor said about success. Because to me, success is when 10 to 15 people can call me and say, "Khadijah, thank you for helping me start my own business." Success to me looks like when 10 or 15 people can call me and say, "Khadijah, I remember when you mentored me and I was just out of college and now I have a thriving business." Success to me is sharing the information and depositing, like what you deposit in that man that had the lawn care business. Depositing those gems to me is success. Like you said, the police officers don't look like us. They can't relate. So if they can't relate, how can you successfully patrol a community that you fear? You don't know the difference between a threat or non-threat. You don't know the difference between the person, the kind of person, and we all, at least I hope we can all relate. When I was coming up, it was always this one little person that hung out, was out in the parking lot and watched the business all night long. We would make sure he get fed and change the clothes or whatever, but that's what he chose to do. Nobody feared him. But now, a person like that will get locked up and be in the system, and you wonder if he gonna make it out alive or whatever. So here again, it's about us relating what looks like success. Personally myself, I think there ought to be 10 elected officials in here. The much work that this young man has done. This young man, how old? I'm putting you on the spot now, Pastor Sean. How old are you? 35. He's 35 years old. Why is a 35-year-old man more invested with making sure that the legacies of people are carried on than some people my age? I have to ask that question, and I know, at the end of the day, people are going to say, "Khadijah, you shouldn't do that." But at the end of the day, if we don't do better, we're not going to have better. Like this, we're having an open conversation. There's no judgment zone, and we're sharing ideas. But this needs to be all over. You understand what I'm saying? So where is it that we have just gotten so comfortable in our not caring? We don't care. Success, money, clothes, houses, that's your level of success? Can't none of that make it to the hereafter with you. Can't none of that stand up at a service and say, "Oh, Commissioner Khadijah was a great woman. Look at me, I'm her pocketbooks that she had." It won't make a difference. So how do we get that village? I still say it's the village concept. It's wanting for my brother what I want for myself. How do we get that back?
What he's doing this documentary and these barbershop talks, the plan is to take it statewide, right? So then you come together and you get views from everybody in all parts of the state, and we can kind of work with that. Atlanta is now, but then we're going to Macon, Valdosta, Savannah, Columbus, so we'll have views from everybody. By the time this documentary comes out, you'll have views from every area of the state.
I hope you're lighting a fire.
Yeah, he is.
And finally, everyone shared their final thoughts.
When we first started off this conversation, we was talking about what the barbershop represented, right?
I'll let you know I will.
It still represents that. We just got to get the people engaged and got to get them back to where they were before, hungry. You look forward to going to the barbershop because you got the information. You look forward to having a conversation with your elders because you knew your elders If your elder told you something, you could take it to the bank because you knew if they told you something, they had already trial and error. Do we still have the respect for the elders? You know, but I appreciate what you're doing here. I tell you, this is worth its weight in gold because this, whatever we have as a people, as a society, as a culture, does not need to die out. That's my biggest fear. That some of the things that you're doing, some of the things you've done and he's done and I've done, they may end with us. That's scary to me. That's one of the biggest fears I have.
The barbershop is used as a place of getting out information. The barbershop is used as a place of passing along information. We just got to continue to make sure that we are using it in the right perspective. You know, it was one of the things that hurt me the other day was I was speaking to a mom who lost her son earlier this year to gun violence. And she was talking about the barbershop, but she had a negative view of it. And it was only because of the fact that her son was killed by a person who was a barber, right? And I was like, man, think about how sacred of a place that is to our community, and that how that branded just that situation itself branded our community and hurt our community because of the fact that we look at the barbershop as being such a sacred place, right? So it's bringing all that back, and it's good when we have elected officials and we have people who are willing to come out and talk to our community too. So we want to just thank you for coming out today and give you a big round of applause because you didn't have to do it.
I know. Look, what else I need to do? But I love this. I love the energy. I love the vibe. I love being able to sit here with men that look like me. And I'm going to walk out here knowing that I've been enriched, that I've learned something. So I appreciate you inviting me. And it's not a dig on others, but I know you are in the community. And I know if you invite me to something, it's going to be about empowering the community.
Thank you for coming out.
Even if it's beyond the borders of my district, I would love to support this. I think this is a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out and visiting. Give it a round of applause. Thank you.
All right, my kings. The queen has to leave the building.
Have a blessed day.
All right, I'll make sure you get my card. But what I will say is, Commissioner Khadija, any of you all need to get in touch with me, 44612-8222. It doesn't matter what you're calling me about. If I can't help you, I surely will try to find somebody who can. All right, you take care.
He has an old soul.
Don't he? Don't he? Don't he have that old soul? That's why I said when he said he's 35, it's hard. It trips me out because I feel like I'm talking to somebody that's 65.
Now you don't look old, you just...
I ain't got that old soul. Well, take care. You all take care.
This episode of Barbershop Talk was brought to you by Black Brothers Matter Fund, which works to increase power in marginalized, predominantly Black communities. Thank you for watching.